I think so. I'm just going to try and find the agenda to pull.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. And first thing we'll do is a pledge. And the pledge tonight. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a change on the agenda. Oh, down here. D1 will not be happening tonight. The Native American Awareness presentation by PHS students. Okay, I don't have any green cards tonight. Lillian, did you get any green cards? Thank you. That's all I've got one right on the top there. Mandy Ryan.
Yeah. Right on there.
Yep. Well, just state your name and your address.
Mandy Ryan, 3605 Southwest 53rd in Corvallis.
Okay.
I have a kiddo at Clemens and I have a kiddo here at Wilmot. I just want to bring up the fact that parents are not able to come volunteer unless they are vaccinated. I personally am not. I also am tested weekly. I have had COVID, and COVID is not a double infection. You do not get it again. Once you've had COVID, if you want the data, I can provide it for you. So being banned from my child's school with a negative COVID test, to me, is unacceptable. I know I emailed a couple of you. I feel like that that's complete discrimination against people who choose to not put something in their body. And as far as being safe, I am 100% safe. I have never refused to wear a mask in my child's school if I was allowed. And to prevent a negative test should 100% be acceptable. Whereas a vaccinated person can absolutely get COVID and they can absolutely spread COVID, and they are not required to provide a test, just a silly vaccine card that could be 6 months old. So that's and I also would like to say I commend you for the pledge. That's amazing. I would love that in the students' classrooms. Why are we not doing that every morning? That's amazing. You guys can all do it right here. My child comes home and goes, nope. We did it when we were at Sandiam Christian, and we don't do it here. So I would love to see that. That's amazing. To teach our students that this is America, and we are patriots, and we are patriotic to our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Shirley Opine.
I just got a last minute letter that I would like to share, or they would wanted to share. My name is Charlene Opine.
Okay.
Yes. And I am a kindergarten teacher here at Wilmot. I also am the vice president of our union. And I had a meeting last night with our council, and they wanted to be here, but a lot of them live hours away. So instead, they sent me a note, and so I would like to share that with you. I am reading this statement on behalf of Krista Schmieder, President of Corvallis Education Association and a strong supporter of public schools and all students. Hello from your neighbors in Corvallis. My name is Krista Smeater, and I have been teaching in Corvallis for almost 11 years. I am also the union president for Corvallis School District Teachers. I grew up in Corvallis and had many friends in Philomath. My family still has many close friendships with folks here, and I have loved driving the new downtown and watching the city continue to grow and our edges move closer and closer together. The Dizzy Hen and Eats and Treats are hidden gems of the valley. I am telling you this so you can hopefully feel my sincerity and know the next parts of this letter are filled with the love and respect of a neighbor and a friend of your amazing staff and students. Our districts, including Corvallis, will be able to recruit and retain your best staff to be with our students if they do not end up retiring completely or finding a path outside of education. Things are not great, are not perfect, or easy in Corvallis. We are dealing with violent behaviors in the classroom, working tremendous amounts of overtime to keep up, and navigating a whole generation of parents and students that have been through the same pandemic. The biggest differences I see currently are empathy, compassion, and respect. Our union had some hard conversations with our admin teams and district to show how much we are drowning. And then we realized that they were drowning too. Everyone was working harder than ever to serve all students. With that shared understanding, the district took quick action, much like a pandemic, when they arrived on the scene, and provided instant relief and long-term planning solutions to give us hope. Still, we have people resigning. The positions will become harder and harder to fill. More empathy and respect will go a long way. Competitive compensation would help too. If your staff can find more affordable yet still expensive housing in Philomath and enjoy all the growth of your town to call home and drive 5 minutes to a district that treats them with respect and provides better compensation, why wouldn't they come teach our kids? It isn't fair to keep their love of your kids as a bargaining chip for them to stay. Their hearts, metaphorically and physically, can't take that much longer. I hope we can work together to find a solution to help the most students, families, and educators possible. Sincerely, Krista Smeater, or Schneeder, sorry.
Thank you. Tanya Evers? Oh, yes, okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tanya Everest. My address is 6320 Northwest Dunback Avenue, Albany, Oregon. And I am the superintendent for the Wyndham Lincoln Educational Service District. And we get to serve your school district. And I just try to come to one board meeting a year. And so thank you for letting me join you this evening. I brought you a few things. And so the overlay brochure is a little bit about our ESD, so you can get to know us. And the thicker document is what's called our local service plan. We have we did our local service plan to be a document that's more accessible and easier to read and to understand really what our services do for your children. And so I hope you enjoy it and learn a little bit about that. Some of the major services that we provide to your students are, we serve several of your birth to 5 students before they actually make it to you. And we do in-home services as well as education services. We provide business services and network services, a variety of things. And so I just want to say thank you for letting us serve you. And you'll, in a couple of months, after the beginning of the year, you will see a resolution that you'll hopefully pass for the continuation of the local service plan for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Correspondence, student government report.
Good evening. My name is Dylan Bell. I'm the ASB president at PHS. It's nice to be here in person this time. I don't know if you noticed, but at the high school, we're approaching the end of our first trimester. Trimester has been full of many successful events. We just finished fall sports season this year. The boys soccer team won state. The girls cross country team placed second in their state meet, and the volleyball team placed third in their state competition. However, the boys cross country team and the boys football team also qualified for state, so that means that all of our 5 fall sports qualify, which is a great achievement for everybody. Before the soccer state final game this past Saturday, ASB put on Pancake Breakfast for the team and the student body. We had a great turnout of students and team members along with their parents. I'd like to give a big shout out to Mrs. Finkus, along with everybody in the ASB class who helped to prepare the pancakes and make it a successful experience for everybody. We also celebrated the soccer team on Tuesday with a big blue assembly at Cummins Field. And that was a successful event where we got all the entire student body out there to show off the soccer team and their successful season. Yesterday, we put on a blood drive. It's the first time we were able to do this event over the past couple of years. It was a very successful event, and we were able to fill our goal for blood donations. As we finish off this trimester over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see the start of winter sports, and along with their first games of the season. Drama is also performing their fall musical December 2nd through 4th. During the final week of the trimester, ASB will be handing out hot chocolate and snacks to help the students get through the stressful time that is finals. We're looking forward to later in December with many events planned around the holiday season. The last week before school gets out for winter break, ASB puts on an event called Deck the Halls, where we decorate the hallways for the holidays, and that involves the entire student body. So anybody who would like to come and decorate the hallways, and we provide some materials for that, but it's mostly student money. We also have dress-up days throughout the week before we send them off. Thank you guys for allowing me to present. You guys have any questions for me?
No, I just want to say what a great job you guys are doing, because I can see all the work you're trying to put into making things as normal as possible for the students. And you did have a great turnout on Saturday, and that was a lot of fun, and I thank you for letting me participate. Great job to soccer team.
Thank you.
I also want to point out that the boys soccer team was also #1 in the state academically, as well as the girls cross country team #1 in the state academically, as well as the boys cross country team #1 in the state academically. So I would offer that we have 4 state championships in addition to the other, and then our football and girls soccer were also in the top 10. I think that often gets overlooked. We have wonderful athletic programs, and you guys have great success. Congratulations! But also, in addition to being great athletes, we are student athletes, and we had 4 state championships. So you got 2. Congratulations.
Thank you. Association reports, PEA.
So I want to say that our teachers love to teach. They love being with students. They love helping students succeed. At the same time, we are having teachers who are experiencing significant impacts of high stress loads and work levels. I have some data. We did a survey of membership, all buildings. And as you can see, the majority of our teachers, over 75%, are feeling a significant negative impact on their overall health and wellness right now due to work and stress levels of the job. And when we ask teachers to compare this year with average years in terms of how anxious they were with situations and how much stress they were experiencing, we had 80% of the teachers indicate this, or more than 80% of the teachers indicate it was an above average year for that. And when we asked teachers to rate their enjoyment of the job, there was a lot of teachers finding this year very frustrating, and we had 70% indicate that they were not able to enjoy their jobs as much as they usually do here in Paloma. And when teachers were asked about their workload compared to pre-pandemic, 50% said that they had a much greater workload, and another 36% on top of that said they had a greater workload, and nobody said that they had a smaller workload than normal. And when we asked teachers specifically how many hours outside of paid work they're working, there were a few who said they were working within the contract hours. The vast majority of your staff was working additional hours, and a lot of those teachers feel they're working additional hours and are still feeling not caught up. So that's a bit of the status of where we are now across the district. And there were teachers who submitted their personal stories along with us. We had an open-ended question where teachers could say, how are things going? And so I just want to give you a sampling of just a couple of those. One teacher said, I've been extremely disappointed with the amount of stress and pressure that has been put on teachers. I feel like I cannot take time off without feeling guilty because there's a lack of sub coverage. We were essentially discouraged from taking time off because it's so hard to find subs. My mental health has been taking a toll because I am working well over my contract hours. I have to get to school extremely early every day to make sure I'm feeling ready for the school day, easily work another 2 to 3 hours after my contract hours. I can't let my students down because they count on me every single day. When we are being asked to do things outside our job description, it's really adding to the toll on everything else teachers are dealing with this year. It feels really dismissive how hard we are working. I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but I love my job. That's in all caps, the teacher put. I'm scared after this year I won't have the same love for my job because I'm being asked to do more than a teacher should be doing. Being newer in the profession, I'm working harder than what my paycheck reflects. I have another job on the side on top of working extra hours because without it, I wouldn't be able to provide for my basic needs. Another teacher writes, I'm burnout and discouraged. I'm trying to work smarter, not harder, and yet the way things are going are not sustainable. Even with time management, it feels impossible to fulfill all the duties that I need to, including cleaning, communicating with families, communicating with colleagues, prepping, reflecting on teaching and what students need, staying ahead and planning in case of quarantine, adding additional engaging lessons that are not part of the curriculum, and then dealing with the social emotional side for students. I'm stuck between truly wanting to be the best teacher I can and give students what they deserve, and also stay well mentally and not burn out. I hear that I'm appreciated and a priority, but I do not see that reflected in the action from the district with time to focus on basic needs of the students and teachers. There's a push for PL, but students cannot learn when they are not okay, and neither can teachers. mental wellness and support for staff, and a settled contract that reflects an appropriate salary are important. Final one here I want to read is that I'm seriously considering leaving my job. I worked super hard to get here, but over these past several years, I've given everything I have to my school, at great cost to my own family and children, as well as my health. Starting this fall, I've been aware of, as well as saddened by a little voice in my head suggesting that it may be time to move on. It's the relentless rigor of the job, the meeting dates, keeping up with the paperwork demands, progress monitoring, staying in touch with parents, communicating with teachers, meeting individual needs that are wearing me down. My stress level and blood pressure are off the charts. I don't think the admin team have an idea what I'm going through because quite frankly, the office goes dark by 4:30 and I'm here for another 3 hours. I feel lonely. So want to share with you sort of where a lot of our staff are, give you a pulse of what's going on. The data reflect sort of where we are overall across our buildings, and those are just a few stories from some of the different buildings and our teachers. Thank you.
I just have one question.
Absolutely.
Your survey here, was that, did you get 100% response or is that just a
Shirley, you would know.
81.
81%.
81%?
Or 81 teachers?
81 teachers.
Oh, 81 teachers, so that's
81 teachers.
even higher percent.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
And I'd also like to thank all the teachers for showing up here tonight. I know you guys are busy, but you still took time out of your busy schedule to come in and show your presence here in front of us. We do understand that you are working hard. And I mean, we're trying to do what we can to help you. And, you know, it may not look like it at times, but we do. We do try to, we are trying to make things better. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's out of our control, and you know, but we are trying. And I think that not only teachers, but a lot of other professions are kind of in the same boat of being stressed out, tired of dealing with, you know, this COVID thing and all the aspects of it. So it's not just the teaching profession. So, but I do appreciate you coming and being here and seeing all of you. You know, the solidarity with the union, it makes points. So OSEA.
All right. Good evening, school board members. I'm Ryan Kilday. We are happy to announce that our members have officially ratified the vaccine mandate MOU with the district. We have a couple more MOUs to start bargaining and look forward to working with Susan on those. One of the MOUs to be discussed focuses on classified members filling in as substitutes in the classroom. We're very pleased to see this already being implemented at some buildings with great success. It allows some of our members to utilize and hone their skills in the classroom while also filling a vital role in our district. In many cases, learning is able to continue seamlessly as students are already familiar with members. Lastly, it provides a way for some members to earn additional income, which is sorely needed. We're excited to see how this develops throughout the year, as it already seems like a win for everybody involved. This will be my last board report, as we elected new union officers at our last meeting. Amber French and Laura Shun will be replacing me as co-presidents. Tina Chambers will continue to be our treasurer, and Debbie Johnson will take over as secretary. I know this group will do a phenomenal job representing our members, and it gives me solace knowing that I'll be leaving this position in hands more capable than my own. We look forward to keeping the school year going in a positive direction and fostering the connections that make our community such a great place. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to the superintendent's report.
here. First of all, I didn't put it on here, but thank you, Tanya, for introducing yourself and for being here. Tanya and I go back a month or two. Actually, much longer than that, but have appreciated the leadership and support we get from the PSD. So thank you for being here with us. Dylan took the thunder in a good way for the Paloma High School athletics, and you rarely find a district that will have all their athletic teams in postseason play. And so the fact that every single team was in a round at least of postseason play, and then the academic support on top of that is unheard of. And so it's a great credit to what's happening for our students and the success that they're having. So appreciate that a lot. Wanted to acknowledge, and you'll hear a little bit more about it, is just a congratulations and thanks to Jennifer Kessel, who is one of our technology coordinators. She submitted and received a federal grant to support the attainment of additional Chromebooks for us. And because we got so many last year with COVID funds and student investment account funds, these are in addition, and she's actually ordered to make sure that they stretch the life of them out long enough so that we're not getting something this year whose license will expire in 3 years. So it's like a 5-year out licensure that can be able to support us in the addition of parts, or if we ever need to send stuff home with kids, things like that, that will help serve us into the future. So that's been a nice addition. I wanted to start adding also information about some schools and classrooms, and just a few highlights to be able to put out there. Just to let folks know that even though it's non-traditional, that Veterans Day continues to be acknowledged and be an important thing in Paloma schools. And the celebrations range from school assemblies to evening programs. The middle school had an evening program, to video presentations in individual classrooms. But every school had some way of being able to represent and honor Veterans Day, as has been traditional in this district. So love it a lot. Other one is digital literacy instruction, and some of that is coming up at our lower grade levels in terms of who you share your private information with, who don't you, all the way to our oldest students, our high school students, who are learning more ways to build mousetraps with social media than I ever thought possible. And the number of applications that are out there for people to be able to use that you can either screenshot or not, or something disappears, or you can impersonate someone else. It's just alarming. And the ability to be able to make sure that we can put that more forcibly back on the radar for all students. So appreciate that. And something else we're noticing in all the schools that we have seen since the beginning of the school year, that degree of frustration or short attention span for students. And so, especially with some of our younger students, and I'll pick on Abby too in a good way, that it's being able to look at the provision of activities that increase the tolerance for time on task or ability for students to persevere, and really starting to stretch that time frame out a little bit to be able to accommodate a little bit more success. And it's been interesting to see at all levels what that looks like. But that's been a really important thing to do. I'm sorry we won't get our Native American Awareness Month presentation tonight from the students. the students came, one of the students came to our equity team meeting last week and shared with us, especially at the high school, some of the posters that they have on display and some of the things that they put up around the high school. And it's just a nice opportunity in terms of recognizing different heritages throughout the months of the year and acknowledging that the history, the traditions of our Native Americans and Alaskan Native populations in this particular month has been good. Also added information about Oregon statewide assessment. If you remember last year, we asked students to opt into testing. And this year we're back into the same opt out if families choose to do that. And so we're back to testing our students in language arts, mathematics, and science. The annual notice, which I have at the end of my presentation here, will be posted on the school district webpage, and it just talks about which assessments for which students. And as assessment dates get closer, we'll have more information available for families and for staff. Also put in information, there was some request about student investment accounts. And we did the final report on budget last month. We wanted to put in some of the key areas that we'll focus on each month. And I picked health and safety this month. In that, that's one of the categories to look at serving. And two of the items that we've done in the last 2 years, one of them has been intercom and bell systems at 3 of our schools who either lost or were at extreme threat of losing intercom communication connectivity that's sorely needed. And so we chose some of our student investment account funds that we didn't spend in a COVID situation because we didn't have kids in the school to be able to redirect toward health and safety to be able to address those needs. They're common system and common support. And so it helps things be able to align more consistently across all the schools. Something else we did this year and planned with our funding is a look at an integrated security camera system across all sites. And you know, some people have said we have cameras already or we don't need them. And it's really about keeping up with the security needs of what we have within each of our schools. And we discovered last year that a number of the bandwidth issues we had across the district had to do with the purchases of the Costco Best of the day to be able to use as security cameras across the years that weren't blended in any way, shape, or form, but were bandwidth costs to be able to take away a lot of our issues that we needed to keep students and staff online. So we chose to put this in here, and the integrated system means that we can, everything is the same. We can replace security cameras across multiple sites. We have drops for more that aren't yet in or are planned to go in at this point in time. And have also looked and agreed to a memorandum of understanding with our license group, and we're working with our classified group on the same thing about the purpose of this of the cameras is safety and security, and it's not about teacher observation and evaluation. That's not its intent, not its purpose, and not what it would be used for in any way, shape, or form. So the other thing that the system did, other than beyond making sure that we have updated cameras with less of a bandwidth need, is they're all consistent. We also have server offside so that we're not going to run into those same bandwidth problems. We've got set up to be able to handle cameras in that particular way. I bring these up today as two large expenses that I've heard a lot about. You know, why these things, and wanted to be able to explain it's a pocket of money that we had through things that we would need and not be able to necessarily do otherwise in our student investment account funds under the auspices of health and safety to be able to do those things. What I'll do is come back around in successive months and be able to look at other health and safety areas social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, student mental and behavioral health. One of the other categories is increased instructional time, and the other is well-rounded education. And so those are categories of things that we can put together. So in increased instructional time, excuse me, you look at increased hours or days before or after school programs. This is a place where we put money into taking away student fees for athletics and for drama participation. To be able to encourage more equitable participation, summer programs, technological investments, and then a well-rounded education of being able to offer developmentally appropriate and culturally responsive literacy programs, look at student supports connected to college and career readiness, and broaden curricular options. So I'll continue to focus on those things just to let people know where that money's going and how it's being spent. Put up information consistently like we do every month about the Ready Schools Safe Learners Resiliency Framework. It still has not been updated since September 9th. Our face covering requirements are still in place, and there is a current statewide review of quarantine requirements that are trying to unify student quarantine requirements across the board, and to be able to lessen those days, and also to be able to, once there's a secure supply of tests, being able to look at some testing ways to be able to get students back into school sooner. And so we're staying tuned on those things to see, but that's the quarantine is the most recent set of conversations that we've looked at. I constantly put out information from Benton County on the state dashboard. And as of yesterday, Benton County as a whole has just under 72% of the population vaccinated. We are at 111 cases per 100,000 and a 3.0 test positivity rate. I put those in there for me, they're comparators to last year. Those were last year's metrics. They're not this year, but it gives us something to be able to compare to. The number of cases per 100,000 and the 3% test positivity are significantly less than they were a month ago, which is good for us. And in talking to the Benton County Health Department, I haven't gotten the numbers yet, but they are very pleased with the Philomath zip code and how things are going within the Philomath community as far as vaccinated individuals and hospitalizations and things like that, or lack of hospitalizations, I guess you could call it. In the world of COVID vaccinations, all staff members are currently employed in the Philomath. All our staff members have met the vaccination requirements. As I get into the information about the pediatric vaccine being released, I've heard some comments from families that say absolutely not, and it's really wanting to make it public that we are not, as a district, requiring any students to be vaccinated. And so that's my response to some of those families, is being able to say no requirement, putting it out there for people who are interested in that as an option. So we did support through Benton County Health Department a vaccination clinic last night at Philomath High School. They provided 92 child vaccines, 60 adult vaccines, 23 adult flu shots, and 19 child flu shots. It did not hurt that every child that walked out of there had a sucker and a stuffed animal that they could take with them. And not as many tears as I thought would be shed were shed. So it was a very successful event. We'll have an additional vaccination clinic on December 8th, which is also a Wednesday at Philomath High School. And we're working with Benton County to be able to help host additional dates that they have in mind. The other thing I put at the bottom was just the same dates to remember. I know Lillian has that on the agenda. Dylan went through a bunch of items specific to the high school. This has winter concerts that bring back some sense of normalcy. We already have the community Christmas tree lighting out there on the calendar. And so it's really, it's nice to see some events and things happening. And then, like I said, the last page I put on there was the annual notice for the statewide tests that just talks to families about what are they, what's available, what are the testing windows, and we will get more specific information out as the test windows get closer. So, questions, thoughts, comments?
Leads us right over to Bill, Director of Finance.
Good evening. The information, the financials were in your board packet. There's a couple things I wanted to draw to your attention. If you remember, I believe it was last month's meeting, I had told the board that because of the fluctuation in enrollment statewide, everyone was going to update their enrollment numbers with the state so that they can rebalance and redistribute state school fund dollars. The big concern to us was because our enrollment was decreasing, that we would see another dip in state school funds. What I was able to do is, the way the state school fund works is you have your local revenues, which are things like your property taxes and timber fees and stuff like that. And then you have the state school fund portion based on enrollment, and they work kind of opposite. So the more local revenues you get, the less state school fund you get, and vice versa. So one thing that I noticed is the past few years we had received a significant amount in timber fees, and last year that dried up and we didn't get that check. And we were getting that check like in May or June, so it was really late in the game to know how much we would get. When I did the estimates for this year, I had included the larger dollar amount again, because that's what I've been getting. So what I did is I dropped those fees this year, which kind of offset the decrease we would have expected from the state school fund because of our low enrollment. So it kind of balanced things out, so we didn't lose an additional amount of money that we could have lost. So I wanted to draw that to your attention. And on that note, on the enrollment front in my report, you'll see that our enrollment from this time last year to this time this year, we're down an additional 24 students district-wide. And in the past month, compared to this time last month, we're down 17 students. So I really think a lot of the mask issues and the vaccination issues and just the whole environment we're in, the students have not returned yet. And we're seeing that statewide. It's not just a Philomath issue, it's a statewide issue. So we're going to continue to monitor that. The next update we'll have with the state will probably be in the January timeframe. And if there's a significant change statewide, they'll rebalance and come out with another estimate. And I know this is going to be exciting for you, but in the next few weeks, I have to send in information on projections for the 22-23 school year. So and I still don't know what that's going to look like enrollment wise, but that's the test. So any questions that the board has on the financial reports?
A larger question just on what you, I know it's impossible to predict, but recognizing that, the state just put it, has money and the kicker and all that piece. Do we have any reason to believe that the legislature will change their funding levels based on the fact that there's that, or do we still believe what we thought previously?
What we've been told, and referring to yesterday's revenue forecast that came out, what we've been told previously is that there's no appetite in sound right now to adjust the state school fund for this biennium. What the state is planning on doing with these additional tax revenues that are coming in is to put it in their rainy day fund in case the economy gets even worse. Then they'll have the reserves necessary to fund K-12 education going forward. So if that's something that you disagree with, my suggestion would be to contact your state legislatures. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that.
No, and that's what you indicated previously, that's all signs.
I've not heard anyone new that changes that.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, if there was a different, the winds had changed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Not today.
Got it.
Just out of curiosity, the difference between November 2020, which is 1569, and 1545 is 24 kids. What does that translate to in dollars? A ballpark figure.
Well, given the numbers at that time, per student was probably around $8,700. So a couple $100,000. But again, it could be offset by additional local revenue, so it's a possibility it's not. And keep in mind, I think I shared this with the board, the funding we received last year from the state school fund and the funding we received this year, even though the investment was bigger, K-12 education, because of our enrollment, our increase was basically it was flat. We didn't really receive more in the state school fund this year than we received last year. But of course, all of our costs went up, so we had to make the best we could with the same dollars. Which is why we dipped into our reserves a little bit.
Okay, we'll go to strategy and discussion, RTTI update.
So before we start the presentation, I just want to say that one thing I really love about RTI is it's targeted and we get to know our kids and test their business that they need and we teach for that. And it made me smile to hear that superintendent at the PSD to hear the presentation because she was my first year of teaching in Malawi County. She was one of my fifth grade students. 30 years ago, 10 was in my fifth grade class. So that was fun. I'm a different teacher than I am. So it's too. But I thought you were fabulous. I thought you were fabulous teacher. So I'll start out. Coleman. Molly and I taught, we were the first two RTI teachers and we taught together for 2 years. This is our third year with RTI for our district. And we started out with reading and now we're adding math to it as well as some other teachers. All right. RTI stands for Response to Intervention and Instruction. Our goal is to provide targeted, effective instruction to meet the needs of all students. The focus of RTI has been on careers in early intervention and the use of evidence-based practices. So I work at CPS with kinder and first grade students. So we assess all our students with a fall benchmark and we see how they're doing with their skills. You'll see in the slides for each grade level that you'll see some triangles. And so on the bottom triangle, the green, we would like 85% of our students to be in green, and those are kids that are at or above grade level. Above that is the yellow, and those are the kids that need some extra help. Those are the kids that we work with, and those kids are in the 10th to the 40th percentile. And then on the top of the pyramid are the kids that are in tier 3 that probably have special services or are on an IEP. So our goal is to get our kids into the, get 85% of our kids into the green at or above grade levels. Okay, so that's the report from Clemens. And you'll see these numbers for all of the grade levels. So I'm K1 and then Molly is grade 2 and 3.
Yeah. Thanks, Kaylin. I'm Molly Bell, and I am the RTI specialist for 2nd and 3rd grade. I had to put up my Dylan picture. I let him leave. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk just a little bit more from what Kaylin talked about our database decision making.
We use two different programs right now across the grade levels to do our benchmark screeners. We screen all students K-8 3 times a year. So the results you're seeing tonight are from our fall benchmark. And then we'll be able to report back after our winter benchmark and our spring benchmark. We use Easy CDM and Star 360 for reading and math. The data is also used by grade level teams to review the core instruction and really set some targeted goals up based on that group of students, knowing that each year that your goal might need to be a different area. And then the risk levels we're sharing are a composite score. And so if a student did a fluency and a comprehension, we put those together to find the risk level. So it's using all of the data we have and putting that together to get the risk level. And then what we do after we get this, those students in the yellow and the red, we do more in-depth screening to see if an intervention is appropriate to help them with their skill growth. So that's kind of how we use this data in the schools as well. And then any students that are put into intervention groups, we progress monitor them either weekly or bi-weekly to see how the intervention is working, or if they've made substantial growth, we can be flexible in our intervention groups at any time. So this is the second, actually, can we go back to second grade, sorry?
No problem.
That's right. Second grade, I need to focus on for a minute because second grade is probably the grade level across the district where we are seeing missing skills due to the challenges of them missing things during the pandemic and their early learning. And I just need to do a shout out to our second grade teachers and their instructional assistants who are working their tails off every day, honestly, to help with this. So we really work together, myself and the second grade team, to intensify our core instruction, especially if you look at reading, to have 34% of those second graders come in at high risk in reading was sort of a shock to us. And so we really have been working really hard to focus on the needs of this class, and their goal is to work on word reading fluency, just to really help get the students where they need to be with sight words and phonics. And we've shifted extra resources, so we're able to serve more of a percentage of that grade level. So we have about 30% of the second graders in phonics interventions on top of their core reading curriculum. Now you can go to third grade. At third grade, we have only about 20% that we're serving in phonics interventions, but you can see that doesn't get all the way through even our at-risk and our yellow students. We have already at third grade seen a lot of growth since we started interventions at the beginning of the year. And myself and my instructional assistants were able to push in and help support small group reading in both small group reading and small group math instruction. So because we have such a wide spread in those grade levels of ability levels, we're really able to target what kids need in those small groups. So that's been a really positive thing that we've been able to add by adding more RTI staff. We're able to also support in math as well. And that's really an area that we're going to keep trying to improve. Third grade's trying to boost their phonics and fluency skills, and their accuracy overall is their main grade level goal in reading. And I think that with both these grade levels and the work that's being done, we'll be able to come back and really report a huge amount of growth with this more regular school year and the work that's going on with these grade levels. Thank you. And on to Emily.
I'm Emily. I'm one of the new RTI teachers this year, working with the 4th and 5th graders at Fulham Elementary. A lot of at least one student out there. We don't see a lot of him. A lot at Fulham Elementary. So this is our 4th grade data. Similar to what Molly said, that's 25% of the students in 4th grade are not reading at grade level. I'm sorry, 50%. 50% of them are in the red or the yellow, so half of them are not reading where we need them to be, which is pretty alarming when they first arrived. We're working on it, and we're working on it with some 4th grade staff. So lots of support for those students so that they're able to access the core itself. So we have a lot of help with more IAs and myself pushing in to try and help bring those students up. We have seen some growth since this is our initial fall data. That red triangle has shrunk to about 15%, and the yellow is now 8%. So that's really great news. So a lot of those kids have bumped up to the grades. We've made some growth already, which is really exciting. So we're adjusting groups and adapting things, but we've seen good progress so far. We go to the 5th grade. So 5th grade also been a humongous success. Again, there's a lot of kids in the yellow and red for reading, but this is our initial data. Our current data, our red zone has shrunk to 10%, and our yellow has also shrunk to 10%. So we have 80% of our 5th graders now reading at grade level, which is huge, like really, really huge. So the 5th grade team has put in a lot of work, taken on a lot more of the phonics that you would normally need or expect to teach in 5th grade. And they've brought that in, and it's been really exciting. They've got that looking so good that they've adjusted a lot of their work into math now. So we're doing walk to math model instead of a walk to reading, in addition to the core, which has been really exciting. They've had that opportunity. And Molly and I are working this year to, we honestly don't have math screeners or math interventions in our district. We've just never had that before. And so we're hoping this year to have that up and running, if not within this school year, certainly by next fall, as we keep on building our stuff and pulling it all together. Pretty exciting.
Hello. Hi, I'm Adeline Stewart. I don't have a child, but I'm in Narwhal, so. And also lots of children. And I'm Kristen LeBron, one of the new arts teachers as well. And that's us in our the student learning lounge, which Eddie will talk about in a little bit. And we are at the middle school, and oh, that's my son Noah. Sorry, I almost forgot about him. He'll be 1 this weekend, so I had to show. And you can go to the next slide. So this is our Arts Day journey. We wanted to include this because we showed this to our staff at the very beginning of our school year when we were really rolling out our program. Addie and I are establishing a brand new program at the middle school for our Arts Day, and big thanks to our TOSA team here because they have already rolled out a lot of it at the elementary and primary levels, and so we felt very grateful this year being able to come to them and say, hey, what is this? We need help with this, and so that's been really nice. So that's kind of our very beginning of the year. We were at that learning stage in the roadmap, and it has been a lot of, there's been excitement and some challenges, but I think that learning curves, it's good to remember that that's going to kind of be throughout the whole journey. So we started there, and then we moved to our assessment and review of data. And we also screened all of our students this year, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders with the assessments that Molly mentioned earlier. The district has taken on that Star through 60 for everyone, so that's been really awesome in reading and math, and also easy CBM. And then we'll do that again 2 more times this year. And then when we review the data, that's what we use to kind of bring us to where we are now, which if you go down the curve again, you'll see we're at the core. And that's basically our phase that we're really going to be at the longest this school year, because since it is a brand new program, we are really working to get to know, the teacher, well, for me, the teachers and the students, because I'm new to the district, but Addie's also been super helpful in that. And we're trying to just push into the classrooms right now, rather than a pull out or, intervention model, because this is just the first year. And it's been really nice. We've been able to partner with the teachers and kind of find out where they need the most supports in order to meet all the students' needs, but especially focusing on the students in the more yellow and red zones. And so at this current time, we're in mostly the language arts classes because our focus this year is on reading. We are trying to dip our toes into math with the STAR math data that we have. But again, as you've heard there, the other schools are just getting into the math this year because we can see the reading takes a while to really get solid with that foundation. And yeah, in the future, we hope to work towards more targeted interventions and supports, as we heard the other teammates talking about. And I'm sure we'll lean on them for more help as we get there. But that's just a brief interview or update of where we're at now. And Addie will share some more. Yeah, so we have on our next slide, we have our 6th grade information. This is really for us to just get an understanding of where our students are, because we've never had a RTI program in middle school before. So getting used to using the measures, working with the students, and really targeting those kids who are in red and yellow in order to provide more supports right now. So we have 6th, 7th, and 8th But you can see we have some growth to do, and it's amazing how much they grow even within the first month of being in school. It's awesome. And in an effort to reach more students, we created the Lestu Learning Lounge, which is a French bistro style study hall during advisory and lunch. Students can come in and get support with assignments that they have, and they can earn a free hot chocolate or a cider after they've completed 9 assignments with us. And students have been really responding well to that and excited to come in and get work done, which is awesome. So as Chris mentioned earlier, we're working towards just creating intervention groups to provide more targeted support and work with those higher risk students. So as a district, we have developed our district leadership team, which we call the DILT. And the DILT has created work together. It includes all these wonderful ladies who are doing such an amazing job. And it includes me and Brian Traylor and Steve Bell, the principals of all each of our schools, as well as Susan Halliday and John Norman, our special education teacher. And we're also going to bring on our ELL teacher in Hawaii as another representative to give a different perspective. So we created these goals for the year. The first one, as you just see, we're looking at our whole district data, now K through 8. We started with K5, we've added up for 8th grade. Now we're able to look and see how all of our kids are doing. You'll see that there are big gaps that we need to fill, adds to our stress with what we're dealing with this year. So we are making progress, which is exciting. Our second goal is to strengthen our building implementation team. So this is our district team, and then we take this information and go back to our building teams. And we'll meet one time a month, create building level goals that align with our goals, and then conduct surveys at the end of the year to see our strengths and areas that we need improvement. Our third goal is to ensure that we have everything in place to get assessment started next year. And that was a struggle this year, but we learned a lot, and hope the next year will just be smooth sailing. And then our fourth goal is to decide which assessment tools we really want to use. Right now we have Easy CDM and Start 360. And they're both great, but it may not be necessary to have that. We want to find something that's going to be good for all of us to use, to not have to over-assess the students. So we're looking at that. And then, do you have any questions for us?
I have a couple clarifying questions, just so I understand it, because I remember when this happened, or 3 years ago, last year, that it was reading, right? And then, so this is the first year of math, at any level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the 85-15, is that what we're hoping to see in the fall, or is that what we're hoping to see at the end of the academic year? Got it, so that's what you pass on hypothetically to the next grade. Yeah, okay, no, that was helpful. It seemed like a great program when we were doing it for reading, and it's exciting to see that it's not only expanding in grades, but also expanding in content areas.
I just want to say thanks for all your hard work like this. It's got to be a lot of work to get this information put together and explain it so the board can understand.
I also want to just state I have a 5th grader and she loves walking. Just so you guys know. That's awesome. We hear about it a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go on to the OSBA election. Yeah, I think everybody had in their packets. As I understand it, these are unopposed positions. You just have to vote for them, or I'm not completely understanding. Are they unopposed or they run for the same? Oh, they're both positions, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're both for the same. I was thinking of the same. So. Yes, I would entertain a motion to nominate one of them or both of them. Vote.
Better understanding the process, if we advance both of them or nominate both of them, is there a different advancing, is our intention here to advance more. Maybe not.
They aren't running against each other.
Okay.
They're separate, single, they're the only one.
Oh, they are, okay.
So if you look at the ballot on page 23.
Right.
Yes, Jeff Davis is running for board of directors position 10, and Sarah Finger McDonald is running for the policy committee position.
Got it, yeah.
Okay.
I think actually.
Yes. Got it.
Unless you'd like me to write one in.
So can we make a motion for both at the same time, or do we need to do it individually?
I think we probably don't go at the same time, then if they're running for different positions.
I will attempt to make a motion. I move that we nominate Sarah Finger McDonald for position 10. The LPC position 10, and that we nominate Jeff Davis for the board of directors position.
Okay, they moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
That's not the same. Position 10.
For the MOU agreements with the OSCA MOU, the vaccine.
Right, and that was put in your packet that OSCA's membership has voted on the memorandum of understanding having to do with the COVID vaccine requirements. And so it talks about the proof of vaccine, what the exceptions are, what the documentation required is, additional accommodations for those in the exception category. One of our conversations, and we're having the same conversation with our license group with PEA, has to do with the district shall make available, and it is item number 10 in that agreement. The district shall make available to all employees a total of up to 3 workdays of additional district provided paid leave, as described below, to be used retroactively to September 1 for an appointment for a COVID shot, illness due to receiving COVID, illness and isolation work days who contract COVID-19 due to a workplace contact traced exposure, and a period of quarantine that prevents the employee from working due to a workplace contact traced exposure. That this isn't an each incident thing, but it's cumulative across the year for up to those 3 days. And so, like I said, we're having the same conversation right now with PEA to be able to reach that kind of an agreement here. And let's see. The use of PPE and face coverings in the district will continue to provide, and this is in place until June 30th of 2022. And so their membership, I got the email last night, ratified and agreed to this MOU for the OSCA group around our COVID requirements.
Do we have a mechanism in place to actually facilitate those 3 days? Like, are we going to be made aware from contact tracing, or is that just going to be from the contact tracer to the employee?
And we're going to find out. Most of it is we can get pretty clear about where things came from.
Okay.
In some instances, we have been told there's absolutely no other place based on what we've investigated that we could find.
Yeah, and it's less about where it originated. It's more about,
Yes.
protected health information and whether or not my employer,
Yeah,
as a supervisor, would not be made aware of that information, because that's not something that, so I didn't know if that's different or how that will be managed, but as long as we feel like we have a way to manage that, I just.
yeah, and we're watching it, and one of the biggest pieces of that was, if it is a documented back to the school and district, it takes that 3-day coverage before you can apply for,
Got it.
thank you, workers' compensation. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? So, you know, that was one of the big reasons. to be
That's
able to
that's
put that in.
helpful. Yep. I just want to make sure we have a mechanism in order to actually. We say, sure, it works. But we can actually make it work. So that's great. Thank you.
And then the other MOU with our licensed association, which we're doing the reverse, we're doing this now with our license type group with OSEA, has to do with the placement of the security camera, or the installation of the security cameras. And like I said earlier, it's really about the district has secured surveillance cameras for school safety and security. That the intent of this is not to be used in any way against or to help expedite any supervision or evaluation. So it's not about gotchas or looking into teachers' classrooms to be able to say, I'm just going to pick this and write this up as an observation today. That it's really predicated on the safety and security around the school. And so we've got this into play as well.
I didn't know if you wanted to do both of them at the same time or just take one and then the other one up. Well, I didn't bring that one up.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's
I jumped
fine.
the gun.
No, it's fine. I just didn't know, so. I think we'll do each one separately, then there'll be no confusion as to anything. It just, we'll do one and the other one, so we'll do the OSCA MOU first. So do I hear a motion?
I move we accept. RCA, will you?
I'll second that.
Okay, then moving second. I just have one question, and it has to do with Randy Ryan's presentation to us tonight. It said that parties following terms and conditions of the last sentence of the first paragraph apply the district's policy requiring that classified employees receive vaccination for COVID-19 or a religious or medical exemption in lieu of vaccination. My question is,
And I wrote myself that note because I believe that our volunteers are in that same boat for the exception.
that's
So-
where I was going.
So that's
with
where
this.
I wrote myself a note to be able to contact that parent
Okay,
and be able to have that.
because I don't know why, if our employees can be a religious or medical exception, why we can't have volunteers in the same boat.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
So I handle volunteers, and all communication that I have had with volunteers about sending me their COVID status is either they send the card information, or if they need a form of religious or medical, I send them the form. So they have that same option.
okay.
So I'm not sure where the confusion came in for Mandy.
Yeah, I don't know. I took it from what she presented that they weren't offered that option.
No.
So
But they have been offered that option though, correct? Okay,
So, well, yeah, but that's what I want to make sure of, is that she knows that option's out there for
For the
volunteers
volunteers.
as well, because we have had people who have said, I'm not going to submit either one.
yeah, well, that's their personal
Yeah,
choice.
and we've respected that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
they don't have
Lillian.
to, so, all right, thanks, Lillian. All right, been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Now the PEA MOU, which Susan already gave a little speech on it there. I think everybody understands what it is. Is there any, well, let's have a motion first.
I so move that we accept the MOU between PEA and school district about cameras.
There's second.
A second.
Okay, It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The policies on the first reading. And I had a question on this. Get back in the right place here. Before, when we had the policy committee, it was considered the first reading, and they went over it in the committee. And then when it came to the board, it was actually the second reading and we could approve them.
So that's actually something we have to decide amongst ourselves, that we are giving the policy committee the approval to do the first reading.
Okay,
So we don't have that agreement amongst ourselves.
okay,
So we can do that,
all right,
but that was not set up that way right now.
okay, well, I guess since we're doing this, we might as well have that conversation right now. Is there any objections to the policy committee qualifying the work that they do as the first reading?
No objection, but just a comment that I would hope that when they come to us for what's the second reading, after they review, that they, obviously we have the highlights, we have the changes, but anything that the committee had to discuss at length, I would like to have brought here. That'll draw our attention to not just the changes that are semantic or required by new legislation or those sorts of things, but pieces that they struggled with, so that we could also have that opportunity. Sure. That would be helpful.
I agree,
As I read through all this.
because a lot of the stuff that you're seeing tonight was really some quick changes. That was just really language kind of stuff, nothing we had to actually really deliberate on. And so we could have actually moved this along to a second reading tonight and moved this process faster. But yes, certainly things that had more things to discuss with, and even then, I think we could pull those out and actually make it a first reading in a meeting as well.
And we don't have to approve it just because it is a second reading.
Right.
We could
Correct.
bring it back for a third reading, and that's not a problem.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you a question and I just went.
I had a question about the BBDH, the proposed, was that language, did that come from OSBA, or because we deleted one and
Which page?
Yes.
it,
Pretty much anything you see in there is coming from OSBA. We did not,
it would have been page 52. Deleted the policy BBDH, deleted on page 50.
Yeah, their suggestion was to delete the version 1 and to replace it with the proposed version 2.
Okay, that was my question. I remembered it now. Is there a person from OSBA that comes down and meets with the policy committee?
there is not.
There's not. Okay, well, there was before.
Correct. I think when we really revamped our policies, we had somebody from OSBA come and go through them with us. Now, if I'm right, we sort of happened to a even state and we just slowly
A
are,
more manageable.
yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
driven bite-sized pieces. And they do come with some like backup documentation, and there's OSBA like videos to watch.
Yeah, so what you did was a policy rewrite, the entire thing, and so the district paid to do that policy rewrite, and that included having someone come and go over it with you.
Yeah.
But now we're doing I'm trying to remember the other.
Just an update.
But it's sort of quarterly, they send us the policies they feel like being good, and they give us information about why they need to be looked at, and or, what's required, what's not. So we're still paying for that service, and also the service where they update our website with the current policies as soon as we have them approved and
I had a question on policy AC, the fourth paragraph. And it is new language, is highlighted language, and it says, and the public and such. What does and such mean?
And such procedures, it just continues on. It looks like there's a period there, but I don't think there's supposed to be.
No, the period is part of the strike.
It is, yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay,
So it says public comment and such procedures will be available to district's administrative
Okay.
office.
all right. I was reading it with a period behind.
Yeah, I saw that.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I saw a period too, and that confused me.
All right.
Until I realized it was in purple.
Okay. PDBA. Page 2, second.
I think we were looking at BDBA.
Yeah, BD/BDA.
Page 46 in the packet.
I just put second paragraph question mark. I'm trying to figure out why I had a question on it.
So this policy has to do with the changes that the legislature made about public meetings and how we have to have the same ability to, for our public to comment online as they do in
Yeah.
public or in person.
Yeah.
And so, it's like tonight, we let people sign up right at the door. We would have to let people like somehow knock on our Zoom door.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I put that on there. Yeah, I must at the time. it was-
The last sentence is a little awkward. From, I mean, if you looked at it, when it says for information, how to give or submit public comment. You know, and then bracketed is outlined, that sounds a little stilted.
There
and
may
worded.
be a missing on.
I was gonna say.
Information on or
how to
information
give,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
I think we.
the only thing I saw there in terms of, it just seemed awkward, the way it was stated, so.
Well, that's probably what I read the first time and I just
Yeah.
didn't write it down. But I did get it on here that I had a question about it.
Well, that was good.
Your attention to it.
Got it.
So, other than that, I didn't see anything in any of them that,
I guess we have two things before us. We have the policies first reading, but also, did you want to take any sort of action on the idea of, do we have to formalize the policy committee having that first reading or?
well, yeah, I would like for the policy committee to have the ability to qualify that as the first reading. And then when they bring it to us, it'll actually be the second reading. And if we so choose, we can approve it at that time. It doesn't have to come, you know, as a first reading and then a second. It can come as a second. We can approve what we need to. If we have questions, we can send it back to the committee and then they can, you know, figure out what we want or what we need and bring it back to us again for adoption. So
Is that something that needs to be voted on? Or
I think it would probably be better to have a motion to formalize that the
Okay.
policy committee has that authority to qualify what they bring to us as a first reading, so that it'll be the second reading for the board when it comes to us. So Karen, you want to make that motion since?
Yeah, so I move that we authorize
Yep.
the policy committee to formally make the first read on policies, present to the board as a second read.
Okay,
So we cover bases.
there's a second.
Second. Second.
Yep, okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
But that being said, this was still just the first read
Right.
on these, so we will.
So
have
next
to
month
look at
it'll
these
be our
again
second
next time.
Yep. So I think the only piece would be to review it for that correction for.
Right.
I figured out what the question was now. I was on the wrong page. I was on page 1. I need to get to page 2. In new language, it says the possession of dangerous or deadly weapons and firearms as defined in law by board policy is prohibited on district property. Now, my question would be, does that include somebody who's legally, who has a legal right to carry concealed?
Don't know.
Because I think that's mandated by the state
Board policy.
where they can and can't carry.
Well, that's a great question.
I know it's been a,
What does our board policy say currently?
well, I know it's been kind of a bone of contention throughout the state in different jurisdictions changing policies and rules. Because when that was set up, it's a state permit and it's was governed by the state as to where you could and couldn't, so you didn't run into situations where if it's legal in the Paloma School District, but Sweet Home has a policy against it, then, you know, somebody who's legally carrying goes to Sweet Home from Paloma or from somewhere else, and then is in violation of their policy unknowingly, you know, that
The way, you know, as we say, the way the law passed, basically it said that, and this is, I'm sure it's gonna get challenged in the courts if it's not already, but basically said that the way that was passed was that the districts, school districts, community colleges, universities can now basically make their own rules about it. So your situation would exactly be that situation where Sweet Home might say, yeah, sure, they can carry, and Paloma says they can't, or vice versa. And
Yeah.
so then somebody could potentially get in trouble for that, and yeah, I think, I don't know if it's hit the courts yet, but I mean, I've already heard of the potential for, because of that, just the sort of inherent
well, the unknown.
unknown unfairness,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, yeah. It should be a statewide thing. And at the moment, it isn't. So, as I understand.
I was gonna say, it appears, I'm guessing this is OSBA, and it says as defined in the law. My guess is that the current law would indicate that it's not permitted on district property.
Yeah, well, I'd like to
Well, that's been in our,
I'll
actually,
follow up on that one.
have a ruling on that before we,
Yeah,
you know,
before next month.
yeah, so,
Yeah, I wrote myself an on that one.
okay.
Could be
It
important.
just says, our policy just says no, that you can't have weapons, it doesn't say anything about whether or not it's,
Concealed.
like, you have a license to carry it, it just says no weapons.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the general public can't come on the district property with weapons, but if you're a licensed concealed carry permit, then.
Public safety officer or all different.
Well,
Other,
Yes,
no, there are plenty
weapons
of
and controlled
exceptions
law
under the law.
enforcement.
Yeah. Well, it has defined by law,
Right.
in law, so,
Okay.
then there's the whole hazy issue
Oh.
of what happens if they have a weapon in their vehicle.
Right here, it says this, the weapons in school, this one's specific to staff, it says it includes those who may otherwise be permitted by law to carry such weapons.
the staff.
Correct.
Yeah,
So I don't know that it's interesting, because it looks like we have two policies, if I'm not wrong here, one for staff and one for basically students.
Yeah, there's no, there doesn't appear to be one for the public.
I mean, it just says weapons in schools, students shall not possess.
Yeah, we should definitely get clarification on that.
yeah. Yeah,
On the list.
Confident.
So-
OSBA has an answer.
And our lawyer.
Is there any other questions on any questions or concerns of any of the other policies?
I think that was gonna be my question to the policy committee, which sounds like they've already offered, which was the language was essentially OSBA, and there wasn't at policy committee level, any items that required lengthy conversation.
Well, I would like to pull the BDBA policy just because of that one paragraph there until we find out exactly what that means.
Well, there's some, yeah, let's say there's other places in the policy, at least one other place that addresses this, because this is specifically about board meetings.
Yeah,
And it's within that policy, so basically saying, yeah, you can't bring a weapon in the board meeting is what, is the way I read that.
yeah, but I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, there's no conflicts. So, yeah, if we just pull that one policy, I think we can vote on all the rest of them.
Well, we can't vote tonight.
No, it's-
Technically,
Oh, yeah,
it's
the first reading, yeah.
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 Well, it was good for this one, because I think we found our rhythm too in that meeting.
Yeah.
Being able to figure out how we want to work together, so,
So if you can put that on next month's agenda
got it.
as a second reading, okay. All right, so now, since we're done with that one, action items, consent agenda. Willing to entertain a motion for the consent
We got
agenda,
two.
except for Alice Eldridge to cover Cahill and Robert Zarfus to cover Cahill. Those two will be removed. Other than that, the consent agenda as printed.
You will see the positions again. What happened is we discovered those positions, the additional time for staff was never advertised. And so in order to meet with our own policy and the collective bargaining agreement, we're withdrawing those and that time is now officially advertised.
Okay. So is there a motion?
With those exceptions, or those changes, I assume the consent agenda.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda minus the 2 EHS science teacher positions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes 5-0. Surplus property. That was a metal piece of equipment. Somebody want to make a motion that we list that as surplus?
So what's the, does the district sell that, or how does it work for surplus?
What happened here was, we had some grant funds last year that enabled us to purchase a newer model. And so this is the older piece of equipment that, because of its value, board has to identify it as surplus property, and then we go ahead and sell it.
Okay, so that's all we have to do, is just identify the surplus property.
You know, we already have a buyer for it.
Gotcha. I so move that we identify that as surplus property.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, it says resale value 1,000 to 4,000. Are you in the middle of that, the high end?
Yeah, that was somebody's best estimate of the value of that piece of equipment. I think we sold it for $1,200 or $1,400.
Okay, I was just curious. I have no idea what it's worth, so.
Take what you can get. That's
Yeah,
not a lot of
well, no, I know, that's-
yeah.
Sure.
So, okay, let's see, you had a motion.
Second.
Oh, and a second. Okay, I missed the second from Anton. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes 5-0. All right, KBCS and PHS co-op for basketball.
And that's just, again, to allow Kings Valley Charter School students to participate as they don't have enough to field their own team. And so it's the 1 year, as you can ask, our co-op agreement to allow those students to play.
What happened to their previous co-op agreements? Didn't they have them with Fall City?
With some sports, not with all.
Oh, okay.
My recollection last time was that we confirmed they will follow any policies or procedures that we have as.
Yes.
school district.
Yeah.
Oh, the participants.
Yeah, just they're participating.
Yeah, they have to meet
Yeah.
all of the grade point averages and all the lists of everything, okay? Yep. Well, that's only fair. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the request for the Kings Valley Charter School PHS basketball co-op.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed, motion passes 5-0. Yeah. Seeing nothing else on the agenda. Next meeting agenda items. Well, the first one would be the policies, and the second one would be the KBCS charter agreement. Anybody else have anything for next month?
I think we should check our calendar and just make sure. Yeah, I gotta look ahead of the meeting, but we do that regularly, so make sure we're on track.
Yeah.
Just a reminder on your important dates, because that's also a very important date. Budget committee workshop.
It's the second.
Yeah, the second,
I
yeah.
don't think we really missed.
How could we forget that?
Hurts my feelings.
We don't forget you. Okay. So. But see, that'll be before the next meeting, so it's a good thing we're reminding people tonight.
It's on my calendar.
So, okay, hearing none, and we'll go to board reports and things. Well, I would like to start off, the teachers once again, and all the rest of the staff for all the hard work that they do, because you can tell that with Anton's report there earlier tonight with all of the academic first teams, you know, the school district doing a wonderful job of educating the students. So I'd like to thank the teachers and the students for their academic success and for their athletic success with all of them making the state playoffs.
Absolutely.
I just want to, recognize and thank the effort that went into still recognizing and honoring our veterans for Veterans Day. And know that typically those are very well attended and in a time when we can do them not remotely. So I'm glad that for anyone who participated, I'm sure that was multiple people in our district who were making that effort, that was continued in as much as we could during this time.
Yeah, hey, I have a couple things. One is, first off, I want to send Braden Latrell, wish him luck this week. He is headed to Lubbock tomorrow, I think that is the 19th, to represent PHS in that competition, and best of luck to him. Also, I had the pleasure of attending the fall musical performance or the winter concert at the high school. It was amazing. Was so happy to see people in the auditorium, and we got to see a sneak peek of the fall musical performance. And I just want to make sure everyone on their calendar, performances start on December 2nd. And I know it was mentioned before, but also the PHS winter concert is coming up again at 7 p.m. I didn't write down the date. Oh, but I know the time. Also, December 14th. Also, with that, I did have the pleasure again of working with the ASB on Saturday to make the Pancake Breakfast, and they're an amazing group of kids. And I do sometimes think they kind of get lost in the celebrations we do of sports. And just great with the kids. And boy, that was a lot of pancakes. So thanks again, and
I heard a lot of sausage.
Yeah, it was lots of when we walked in, obviously we saw lots of teachers, and one of the things that Erin and I said to each other was, there really isn't a face out there that has not impacted our children's lives in one way or another. And so we want you to know that we do hear you. We are listening. So thank you. I sold your thunder. I'm sorry.
No, it's very true and very heartfelt. I was very happy to see so many faces, even though I was worried that you guys are probably exhausted. It's really nice. And I know that most of the teachers that were in the room earlier, as Karen mentioned, have been teachers to at least one, if not more, of my kids. So you're very important and valued members of our greater community, but especially like within my own household. So thank you for everything you do.
Okay, hearing no more things. Is there any board requests?
I would like crumble cookies.
That's not an official request, but Growing hot dog, growing cookies again. Okay.
Okay, it's all right. Well, call the meeting adjourned.